Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Musical Mind. This is Peter, and I welcome back to the channel the one and only Nili Brosh. Nili, how are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, doing well. Are you in? I'm looking at the tour schedule. Iowa
Yes.
got a show tonight, right?
Yes. Yes.
Very
Yeah.
cool. So, do on the Dethklok tour. How is working with Brendan Small?
It's awesome. He's great. He makes everything really clear and easy and fun, and we all have a blast.
I've wanted to ask that before. With the diverse projects you work in, say like you come off the road with Cirque du Soleil or Danny Elfman or Dethklok. Does being immersed in that for months at a time, does that impact your own writing, like good or bad? Like, are you like, oh, I want to get away from chugging on the low E, or does it make you more in the mood to write in that style? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of seeps in there in ways that are not necessarily always obvious. Like
Sure.
sometimes it means that it's in a different tuning than I'm used to just because those are the guitars that I'm playing at the moment. But in general, like, yeah, I think it influences stuff, but it's not always, again, in the most obvious way. It could be like something distant, or like, just a piece of a chord progression or a piece of something that is then like it then becomes so different with what I do to it that I don't even realize that it came from somewhere else. And then you look back later and you're like, oh, maybe that's where that came from. But it's not, it doesn't tend to be, at least to me, like something super obvious.
Right. I mean, it could be anything from like, oh, I've been avoiding doing the 1 4 5, but in this song, I've been hearing it lately and stick it away and go back to a more mainstream chord progression. It could be anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
it could be anything. And I try not to like close myself off from writing something specific just because it falls into a certain category or whatever. I try to let the music kind of take it wherever that's going to go, and if that ends up being a 1 4 5 progression, then so be it.
Yeah. Talk about taking things where they go. On the new album, Eventide, great production. I love it. A lot more keys on this one. And is that you on the keys?
No, it's mostly Nick Semrod, and a
Okay.
couple of the tracks are Alex Argento. But I did Nick Semrod synths are mostly replaying what I did have in there as samples. So I did still do a lot of synths, in the arrangement that were just added to real synths.
Right. And the reason I was going on that tangent was talking about letting the music take you on on the new album, songs like Tip of the Cap.
Mm.
When you started writing that, were you originally, did you start off with any idea that you were going to add accordion? Or at some point you're like, I need another melodic voice on this, and just that made sense at some point? Or what was the evolution of that?
Uh, I don't know if I remember exactly how it was, but I think I started off with I had the chorus melody in my head,
Mhm.
and I kind of thought about how that would sit on a guitar, and that made sense to me with the nylon string, and then either the verse melody, the one that has the accordion double, that either came later or was like a separate thing that made sense with that chorus. But I think I knew that I knew that I wanted to double with another instrument, but I wasn't quite sure exactly what it was going to be. Like, I thought maybe it would be some type of flute, something like that.
Mm,
But I think the accordion like worked well there.
it does. Did you have to go around and find somebody who plays accordion? I mean,
Luckily, I did have accordion on my last album, so I did
okay.
know a great accordion player in Hubert Gall,
So
who
it's
plays on
Hubert
the
on both
album.
albums. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Gotcha.
So that was the easy part. Luckily, it was a little bit harder the first time when I was just like, how am I going to find an accordion player? but but being in the Cirque du Soleil world, it kind of made it a little bit easier to
I didn't
find
even think of that
some.
angle. That makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
yeah. At that time, it helped find that type of musician.
Was he involved? Was he involved going back to like, I know as far as the Cirque du Soleil stuff, going back years, like the Allegria score had a lot of accordion.
Mhm.
Um,
He particularly was in a show called Ka,
okay.
which is a Vegas show.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and you've got so many good players in this album. The production's great overall. I mean, Virgil Donati on drums. I mean, Pete Griffin on bass. That's great stuff. But the production overall is just so good. I mean, all your albums have been good, but
Thank you.
I really like the overall. It's balanced well, and it almost brings just the overall. I don't know how to describe the balance of it. It brings the other things. It doesn't sound like such a guitar centric album, even though it is.
Well,
But
that's great.
yeah,
I'm happy if that's how it comes across.
yeah. Well, good. Well, it does. Um, as far as other new things, what can you tell us about your signature guitar?
So my signature Ibanez is coming out. Will be available this summer,
Okay.
and it was unveiled this past NAMM. It's something that we've been working on for a long time. And my idea was to kind of like remake the classic RG model based on my specifications and colors. I really wanted to make a fat strat RG, meaning the humbucker single pickup configuration. I think that's
Hmm.
something we don't often see with an RG, and we actually don't even see too many RGs as signature models. So I kind of really wanted to put my flavor on it. So it's got all my favorite variables. It's got a wizard maple neck,
Hmm.
original edge bridge. It's got my exclamation point inlays. The
Hmm.
pickups are actually passive EMGs, which is something that a lot of people don't even necessarily know is a thing, but they actually make great passive pickups as well. Um, Clear pick guard, like we worked a little bit on it took a little while to get the color, the burst color correctly, because we found out how many discrepancies there are when you're talking about a three-tone burst, and
Oh,
they're all hand painted, so the amount of black that is going to go in there kind of affects how dark or bright it's going to be, so that took some tweaking, and I think we finally got it there. So
very cool. Yeah, I guess some combinations are easier to reproduce consistently and some than others.
yeah,
Um,
apparently when it's three colors, you have a
yeah,
lot more, yeah, a
room
lot
for
more.
error.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Other RG specs are kind of, I mean, is it five-way selector, that kind of
yes,
thing? Okay.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I owned an RG years ago, and it's one of the guitars I always regret selling.
I hear that a lot. It's a very versatile instrument, and that's kind of what I was looking to showcase with that. Because I use it for everything that I do, and
Right.
that's many different kinds of music, and it's never steered me wrong.
Who makes your Cirque du Soleil guitar?
So those are custom instruments that were made by Jim Basson, I think is how you pronounce it. He's a
Okay.
luthier out in Vegas. Um, and There are backup guitars in the show that are Kramer SM1s that are kind of dressed up. And I've been using those a little bit more the last few years.
Gotcha. And you like it like ergonomically playing wise?
Yeah, they play great. They
I mean,
play great.
obviously, if it wasn't, you would you wouldn't be using it,
I
but
mean, it's kind of like you take it or leave it. Those are the show's guitars, so you kind of make it work. But
that's what I
luckily,
wondered.
I never really had an issue with it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So you had no input in that. It's like, here's the piece.
No, I had no input. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Um, yeah, how is that with it's got to be just what was the learning curve like for you with playing on stage? There's always distraction, but not necessarily people doing backflips in front of you. And
Yeah, it's a little bit different, because there's a lot of stuff going on at any moment, and it's more of a safety thing, because the show, like, there's just crazy rigging and effects and stuff and holes in the stage, and things go like that. Theater is a death trap, like on and off stage. You really have to know the show really well, and some of the stuff that I perform is on like tall set pieces that are moving and like all these things that I don't really love personally. I have a fear of heights and stuff, and I try to make it work, but it's very much safety first, and it's I not really joke. It's a true thing, but I feel that that show is like the best tour prep of anything because it keeps your stage chops pretty sharp, and not
Okay.
not just from the playing perspective, but like you have to be so vigilant about your surroundings all the time that you go out on tour and you just stand there and play guitar and it feels a lot easier all of a sudden. You're like you're not worrying about crashing into things and stuff
Right.
like that. So it definitely keeps you sharp for anything, absolutely anything else going on.
But yeah, and I guess you have to be sharp, but you can't look like you're paying attention to everything. You have to look
Yeah,
like
I
you're
mean, you
immersed.
gotta know. Yeah, I mean, luckily that show doesn't change very much,
Hmm.
So and I've gotten plenty of repetition of it. So even if I'm not there for a while, like I know what to expect
Right.
in the peripherals, and they train you for all that stuff. And there's a huge team that's set in place to keep you safe. It's not like anyone's really sending you out to get hurt or anything. You just kind of have to be alert.
That raises a question though, because it's such a intricate setting and so precise. What was more nerve-wracking to you? I don't know we're spanning a lot of years here, but having to do that for the first time, or the first time you were on stage with, Tony McAlpine or Steve Vai, or I mean, what was a bigger like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't screw this up.
Uh, I think they're both big on that, but in different ways. One is more musically, and the other one is more, I hope I don't fall on my face in front of everybody,
Right.
you know, literally.
Yeah,
So, yeah, each has its own thing with that.
sure. And like, I've met Tony McAlpine. He's super nice guy and laid back,
Super
but
nice. Yeah.
at the same time, like you don't want to be hitting bum notes and
No,
like,
of course not.
yeah,
Yeah, but you know what? That's kind of how I feel about everything that I do anyway. It doesn't
sure.
really matter who I'm playing with or what the gig is. I don't want to be seen doing that anyway.
No, no, I've never heard it from you. So,
Oh,
um,
thanks.
now does that happen to you though? Because you have so many projects going on over the years, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, but are there situations where like oh, this part in this song always trips me up. I have to concentrate hard on this part, or this drummer I have to pay attention to because he accents things in a way that I'm not used to. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, I mean, of course that stuff happens. We're all human. We're all musicians. The sets of music change. There's always stuff that's challenging. There's stuff that never gets easier, and that you have to like, kind of like you said, concentrate on. And then there's things that like get easier, and then you have to make sure not to psych yourself out, by overthinking them,
hmm,
stuff that you do know well, or it's just it's always a challenge to turn your brain off and not think in general,
right.
whatever the musical phrase might look like. That's the thing that will get in the way is your own mind and your own thoughts. And so it's always the challenge turning that off, regardless of what you're playing or how many times you've played it. It's
Hmm.
You can get into a rabbit hole with things that are very familiar to you, sometimes more so than things that are new to you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'd be curious because somebody like you who's really accomplished on the instrument. Like for me, I don't know. I mean, I use theory, but I have to basically like figure out what I'm doing first. For somebody like you who's like actually trained, when you're in a live setting, are you conscious like, okay, now I'm switching to the key of E, or is it muscle memory? Like, is it a combination?
Conscious of it, but it doesn't really help me in that moment, So
Hmm.
I may know it, but I'm not like focusing on it, And I think the muscle memory is important, and it's important to focus on that and leave it there, because again, it's like once you start thinking, that's the stuff that takes you out of the moment and out of the muscle memory and interrupts that flow, So it's kind of the trust in the muscle memory.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because like I don't, if I'm playing something, I'm not once I've learned it, I don't think of now
Yeah,
I
I
need to
don't think.
I don't
Yeah,
now I need to go to B. I'd like
yeah,
think now
I
I go to the 10th fret or that's all I'm
yeah, I'm not. It's arbitrary at that point that
Okay.
you know that information. You're just trying to play it well.
Gotcha. So there's no magic thing that's like, oh, now the curtain's lifted. Now I'm aware of every note I'm playing.
I mean, I may be, but again, it's like that's not what's going to help me in that moment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's probably like when you're driving a car, you're not constantly think of now I need to hit the brake pedal and like you're
Yeah,
just doing it because you know how to
yeah,
do it. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Do you stay so busy as far as writing your own material? Do you find that you try to push yourself like I need to be creative and I need to produce stuff, or do you just say, you know what, doing a lot and I'll wait for inspiration to hit me to write?
It's more of the latter. I mean, I kind of write as I go along because I generally write by hearing stuff in my head and singing it into voice memos and then leaving it there until I have time to go and work on it, demo it, and stuff like that. So if it hits me, great. If not, I'm not usually too worried about it
Mhm.
because luckily I've never really been at the mercy of a deadline from a record company or having to write on a schedule or have to put something out, like that's not my career particularly. So that's been kind of nice in the sense that I don't have to freak out about it if it's not the most prolific moment in my life. And there's a lot of stuff going on, so
Yeah.
I try not to, add to the stress of it by being like, oh my God, I haven't written anything. I don't really think of it like that.
Yeah. It had to have been tough, say in the 80s, like do a tour for
Yeah,
9 months and the record label's like, next record, please. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's a different ball game.
yeah,
And maybe, maybe it puts you in a different headspace to go and do it too. Like deadlines are good for productivity sometimes. Sometimes that's what people need. Um, so who's to say?
yeah, fair point. Because you also saw some people that came out of that environment, and then once it was not a deadline from record label, they'd be working on an album for a
Yeah,
decade because
yeah,
they didn't have that deadline.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, so as far as the Dethklok tour going on, how long is that running through?
So we started. We have our eighth show tonight,
Okay.
and we're going till the end of May, pretty much. So it's just under 30 shows. So
It
yeah,
looks like you're hitting a lot of places. I mean,
we
you're
are.
here in
Yeah,
Pennsylvania for a couple dates. You're
most tours you can get on a they have their own routine, and that's something that really helps me. So if you can get on a routine on the road where every day is kind of like similar, then at least it gives you some semblance of like a lifestyle.
do you get time to actually see any of these cities you're seeing, or is it a
Yeah,
series
I
of
mean,
Holiday Inns?
it depends. There's usually time. It's just about whether I'm gonna have the wherewithal and the motivation to go
Sure.
out and force myself to. Yeah, so sometimes I see stuff. I try not to like tucker myself out too much, but I definitely try to see things if I'm in a place that is inspiring me and that I want to see.
Now, did I see at the end of this tour, you're back with some dates with Danny Elfman?
Yeah, we're gonna have some festival dates later on, and actually, both Danny and Dethklok are doing Louder Than Life on the same night. So I'm gonna be
Oh,
doing both those shows on the same night in September, which is going to be the first time that that's happening, and
okay.
kind of crazy.
Is that
So,
a tough, do you think that's a tough gear change for you, or is it just, I mean,
uh, I mean, we haven't gotten there yet. I used to use pretty much the same rig. Now it's a little bit different, but it's two teams that are going to help me work all that stuff out. So that's a lesser concern for me than the actual, doing it.
right. I don't, I never thought about that. Are you using simulators live or using cabs or what do you,
um, I've used both. I usually use my Mesa Triple Crown head
okay.
cap on these tours up till recently, and then we switched to modelers on this Dethklok tour, and I'm using the Headrush MX5 on this run, going direct.
I mean, as long as the sound's good, that's got to be freeing a little bit.
It can be. Yeah. I mean, it's it's each have their own things, I think,
Sure.
so I kind of just try to make it work with whatever makes sense for the gig.
Right. But I would think as long as the audio is satisfying to you and is that's the main thing, it's, you know,
Yeah.
you can be like, oh, this is way lighter than lugging cabs around, but if it doesn't sound great, then
Right.
what's the
Yeah.
point? And
Right.
there was that nebulous area for a few years where cabs were pretty good, but they weren't quite there. But now it's getting to the point where
Yeah.
they're there.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Yeah. The
cool.
sky's the limit with that stuff these days for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I stay married because I can play into a DAW with headphones and I and my wife doesn't have to hear
I'm
it.
sure you're not the only one.
Right.
Sure you're not
Plus,
the
it's
only
just, I mean, I've got pedals that I haven't touched in years because I can just
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well,
That's
what
what
else do we need to touch base with? I mean, what else do we need to keep in? Where's the best place to? I mean, obviously people can stream the album, but what's this, for buying a copy of the album or see you on a date?
Well, so my website has all that stuff easily accessible. That's just nilibrosh.com, Nilibrosh, and all that stuff is really easy to find there. I have all my dates up to date, very current on the front page, and it leads you to a store very easily, and you can get it all there.
Yeah, I noticed your site is actually current. Sometimes you log into websites and
Yeah, I try to keep up with it for
it's like
sure.
here's some tour dates from 2021 and
Right.
yeah, in
Yeah.
HTML and it's
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Well, cool. Very good. Well, as always, it's a pleasure keeping up with you. I love the music and um
Appreciate it.
yeah, I've not seen you live. I'll have to catch something you're playing on at
Please.
some point, but
Yes, please.
definitely soon. Well, all right. Well, please keep in touch and we'll be looking
Thanks.
forward to seeing you soon. What more's coming down the road?
Thank you. Appreciate it, Peter.
All right, no problem, Neely. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Bye.